The moment it happened, no one expected the quiet man with the worn jacket and the steady dog at his side to become the center of a story that would change every life standing in that glass and steel plaza forever. He had walked there with the same careful steps he took every morning, eyes lowered, shoulders slightly curved as if he'd learned long ago not to take up space in a world that rarely noticed him. The woman in white, powerful and polished, had smiled thinly as she dismissed him with a look, her laughter rippling through the circle of well-dressed executives. And in that instant of casual cruelty, before fear ever entered the air, destiny had already decided who the real giants were going to be. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so these stories keep reaching hearts that need them. The man's name was Daniel, though few people ever asked for it. He lived in a modest apartment several streets away, surviving on part-time work and long walks with Rex, the German shepherd who had been with him since the darkest chapter of his life. Daniel once wore a uniform himself, once had a voice people listened to, but loss had a way of stripping titles and leaving only scars behind. Rex was more than a dog. He was routine, purpose, and the silent anchor that kept Daniel from drifting back into grief. That morning, they walked past the towering headquarters like they always did, Daniel nodding politely to the security guards who barely looked back. He never imagined the building's CEO would step out with her entourage at that exact moment, nor that her impatience would collide with his presence so publicly. The mockery was subtle, the kind that cut deeper because it wore the mask of professionalism. A gesture of annoyance, a comment about appearances, a reminder that this was not a place for strays. Daniel felt the familiar heat of shame rise in his chest, the old instinct to apologize for existing. He tightened his grip on Rex's leash and prepared to move along, heart heavy but practiced in swallowing indignities. The executives laughed softly, phones raised, capturing a moment they believed would be forgettable entertainment. None of them noticed the man in the background, the one whose hands shook not with poverty or fear, but with the weight of something hidden beneath his coat. The plaza itself seemed to hold its breath. Rex, usually calm, shifted his stance, ears alert, muscles coiling with a focus that Daniel had seen only once before. It was the look of a trained protector recognizing danger before the rest of the world caught up. Daniel felt it then too, a prickle along his spine, a warning he couldn't yet name. The laughter echoed too loudly, the air felt too thin, and time began to stretch in that strange way it does before everything breaks. The armed criminal moved fast, but not fast enough. He had blended in with the morning crowd, his desperation hidden behind a borrowed suit and hollow eyes. When the weapon appeared, the polished confidence of the executives shattered into chaos. Phones dropped. Screams ripped through the space. The CEO's face drained of color as power and money failed her in the one moment they mattered least. Security hesitated, trapped by distance and disbelief, and in that frozen second, the entire plaza teetered on the edge of tragedy. Daniel didn't think. He reacted. Training surged up from muscle memory he thought grief had buried forever. His body moved before fear could argue, and Rex was already in motion, a force of loyalty and instinct bound by years of trust. The dog's leap was precise, powerful, and unhesitating, a blur of fur and purpose that closed the distance between terror and safety. The criminal fell hard, the weapon skidding across the stone, and the sound it made echoed like a gunshot of relief. Through the crowd. What followed was not applause, not at first. It was stunned silence, broken only by Rex's low growl as he held the threat in place, and Daniel's steady presence anchoring him. The executives stared, mouths open, minds struggling to reconcile the man they'd dismissed with the hero standing before them. The CEO trembled, her authority suddenly meaningless, her earlier mockery hanging in the air like a bitter taste. In that moment, titles dissolved. There were no ranks, no status symbols, only the raw truth of who had stepped forward when it mattered. Police arrived quickly, drawn by alarms and frantic calls. The criminal was taken away, the danger finally contained. Paramedics checked on shaken employees, and security cordoned off the area, but all eyes kept drifting back to Daniel and Rex, standing quietly to the side as if they hadn't just rewritten the morning's story. Daniel knelt, resting his forehead briefly against Rex's, gratitude flooding him so fiercely it hurt. The dog's tail wagged once, simple and proud, as if to say this was always the job. News cameras appeared soon after, hungry for a headline. The story spread faster than anyone expected, a ripple of astonishment moving through the city. People replayed the footage, noticing details they'd missed in the first shock, the way Daniel positioned himself, the calm in his movements, the unmistakable signs of a man who had once been trained to protect others at great personal cost. Commentators speculated, strangers debated, and somewhere beneath the noise, a quiet truth emerged about how easily the world overlooks its heroes. The CEO approached him later, her confidence reshaped into something humbler, her words carefully chosen. She saw him now, really saw him, not as an inconvenience but as a man who had saved lives. Daniel listened politely, his response measured, his eyes never leaving Rex. Forgiveness did not come with fanfare, it came with dignity. He accepted her thanks without bitterness, understanding that moments like these revealed character far more than they changed it. In the days that followed, Daniel's life shifted in subtle but profound ways. Job offers appeared, interviews requested, and invitations extended, yet he moved through it all cautiously. Attention felt foreign, even heavy, after years of being invisible. What mattered most to him was the renewed sense of purpose, the reminder that he still had something valuable to give. Rex became a symbol across the city, a reminder of loyalty and courage, children pointing excitedly when they passed, parents telling the story in softer voices now. But the deepest change was internal. Daniel slept better. The nightmares loosened their grip. He walked with his shoulders a little straighter, not because the world finally approved, but because he had proven to himself that he was still whole. He had faced fear again and stood firm, not for recognition, but because it was right. Rex remained by his side, unchanged by praise, content in the simple truth of protecting his person. Near the end of that week, Daniel returned to the plaza, not out of defiance or pride, but because it was part of his route, part of life continuing. The building stood the same, glass reflecting the sky, but the atmosphere felt different. People smiled at him now, nodded with respect. The space remembered what had happened there, and so did he. He paused for a moment, breathing deeply, feeling the sun warm his face, and then he walked on, Rex's steady presence grounding him in the present. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that courage often wears ordinary clothes and walks quietly beside us, please take a moment to like, share, and engage with this video. Your support helps stories like this reach more people who need to believe again. Before we end, leave a comment below with the word courage if you believe kindness and bravery still matter in this world. Because sometimes the most powerful forces are the ones we underestimate, and sometimes the ones we mock are the very ones who will stand between us and disaster. Daniel never asked to be a hero, and Rex never needed to be told what to do. Together, they reminded everyone watching that dignity does not come from status, strength does not come from wealth, and salvation can arrive on 4 quiet paws at the exact moment the world needs it most.